Welcome back, everybody. My name is Dragagan, and this is Gregtech New Horizons. So, since the last video, I have added a couple of machines over here onto my MV line. Namely, I have added, I believe, the chemical reactor. It may have been there before. But then I added in an MV arc furnace that I created in order to make a bunch of glass. Over here, I've added in the forming press. I don't know if the canning machine was there before, and then I know the forming press and the compressor were not. I did those because I made about 4 stacks of the transport pipes, the item transport pipes from Project Red that you'll see several of them over there. But I needed the forming press and the mixer, the basic mixer, in order to make several of the pipes that I needed in order to expand my network that I will get into. The basic compressor is here because I am currently in the middle of making 3 stacks of the LV circuits. And the reason I'm doing that is because with the 3 stacks, I plan on having 1 stack that I am going to use to make some super tanks, as well as a few more of like the null logic routing chips and some of like the stock keeper and the responder. I've got a small list that I'll cover here in a minute. But the other 2 stacks I plan on upgrading to the MV and then lastly the HV chips, so that I have a fair few chips to work through this list of HV items that I want to get made. Namely, the ones that I am looking to make right now are the big one is the auto miner. I want to make the auto miner so that I can start mining a 3x3 chunk instead of the 2x2 that I currently have. The HV chemical reactor might be nice. The advanced sifting machine might really be nice. The advanced mixer, maybe even getting into some of the power. A few of the things might be handy to have, so I want to get those chips ready. I guess the biggest thing for me is that I want to get working on the clean room. Again, the vacuum freezer as soon as I have the clean room. The oil cracker would be nice. The implosion compressor I will need. So there are various things that I need the HV chips in order to start working on. So that is on my list of things to make. In the meantime, I have been expanding this right here that I called my diesel/bio area. And as you can see, I have many pipes in here. So I showed you guys my biodiesel setup that I had previously. This thing is working. I've got just over 250 buckets worth of biodiesel. It's accumulated 71 buckets worth of the glycerol that I will be using later. So this setup has been just slowly running. I would like to make some sprinklers in order to get more peanuts faster in order to speed this line up. But in terms of what it's doing right now, it seems to be working fairly well. Here I have my electrolyzer with my hydrogen and oxygen super tanks. I finally moved over all of this. I haven't run this machine at all. I don't have any power hooked up to it. So this 3,600,000 milliliters, or basically 3,600 buckets worth of hydrogen and 2,600 buckets of oxygen, I moved by hand. And by hand, I mean I had one of the Ender IO tanks. I had a stack of 64 cells, and then I grabbed my 12 steel cells, and I was basically making trips back and forth to bring all of this over into these super tanks. Over here I have my compressor and centrifuge that is necessary for my nitrogen and oxygen line. Again, still unpowered. I am looking at making a super tank for the nitrogen so that I can start this guy running and get a bunch of nitrogen built up for when I am working on like the aluminum that I need it for. here that I was standing on, this is my ethylene line. I decided to make a line that just processes ethylene, and then have a separate line that takes the oxygen and ethylene and creates the polyethylene. That way I've got two separate lines. I can get ethylene. And the reason I wanted two separate lines is because to make the polyvinyl chloride, you also need ethylene. And so I figured, well, if there are other things that need ethylene, let's go ahead and have it set up on its own to run. So this thing will take in oil, make sulfuric naphtha, regular naphtha, severely steam cracked naphtha, and then convert that into ethylene and store it in what will be a super tank. Right now it's just in a low voltage tank because I only had 16 buckets worth. And then over here, I have the chemical reactor, and I'm only going to keep this molten polyethylene at a low voltage fluid tank. The reason to keep it at a low voltage fluid tank is because each one of these cells is 144 milliliters, not a full 1,000 milliliters. And so 64K of polyethylene is quite a large buffer, so that as I use it, it'll replenish itself fairly quickly. Here beside it, I have the setup that will become, let me think, what was this one going to become? The fluid extractor. Oh, right. I was going to put a Java barrel here, the fluid extractor, and then another super tank here that will actually hold oil. And the reason the Java barrel is here is because the Java barrel is going to be holding oil berries. I've been working on breeding up some oil berries. Over here I have my hydrogen sulfide. Again, it's not powered, but it is here to make the sulfuric acid. And then back here is my diesel line. I've already been running the diesel line. You can see I've got the heavy fuel built up. I was manually bringing over oil from my previous base to run this thing, and I've built back up 215 buckets worth of diesel. My next goal over here is to then produce tetranitromethane and convert the biodiesel over into cetane boosted biodiesel. The diesel itself I will probably leave as diesel, since that is rocket fuel as well for getting to the moon and other planets, and just keep that separate because it is not a good transfer from power from diesel, converting it into cetane boosted. It's better if you can do that with the biodiesel. So that's that setup. I dropped my little block down that is pulling items out of the chest, and I put my request pipe there as well. And the reason I made the 4 stacks of transport pipes is because I ran a line all the way over to my 3 generators that power my crafting room. It runs around back here and all the way over through these other setups so that I can start requesting things there. And then in addition, I ran it down, and it actually runs this way over to my EBF. So my EBF now is set up so that it can request diesel fuel. It is pretty power hungry, so I do like to keep that on diesel fuel, whereas I plan on getting the crafting room running with the benzene setup that I have. I haven't changed the benzene setup at all, but I have been working on breeding over here. And if we take a look, I have, besides weeds here, and these guys are all my wither reeds, but I have finally gotten oil berries. I spent 2 days working with this setup, slowly growing the number of wither reed I had, the number of crossbreeds and everything in order to get this first thing of oil berries, and now I am working on duplicating the oil berries. And in one of these backpacks, I believe it's this one. No, it's got to be this one. I have 2 oil berries that I've already successfully bred. So I've got the seeds now. The next thing I want to do, as you can see, I've built up a wall around my farm so that spiders and things quit jumping on my farmland. But I now have this guy designated. I am going to make this last chunk here an oilberry farm. The tree farm is still running. I've got the rest of this mostly surrounded and covered in glass. And I've expanded and been working on my floating farm. Just to give you guys an overview, this right here is my Galvania farm. Over here is an Aurelia farm for getting those leaves for making gold. I have 4 separate farms up here. I have a Witherreed farm, I have a Blazereed farm, I have, let's see here, that's Liveroot, and this one over here is the Stickreed. I've then been working on, this is right now, what is that? Gleamweed? It's one of the witchery weeds, the glowing ember weed maybe. It's the ember one that'll light you on fire normally if you walk across it. I have over here eye bulbs. I have here corium for being able to get leather. This one is spider nip for being able to get string. And then here I got one evil ore that I've set up, so it's nice to have the evil ore there. My intention is for this section here to be Copon. I'd like to put in a 3rd section over here that will be, it'll probably end up being the silver version, which is, I forget what it's called. Let's see here. And I may not be able to find it this way. There it is, Argentia. Yeah, that's what it is. So I want to have an Argentia and Copon farm over here, and I've slowly been sticking other seeds as I get them. You can see right here I've got Belladonna, Mandragora, Wolfsbane, I think I have Snowbell in here, so I have what's left of the witchery items that I need. And then I've gotten other things, Tyne for being able to make more tin, Olivia, there's my Copon seeds that I plan on using. I need to set up a thing for Ferru, Titania, Boxia, Nickelback. The Plumbiscus isn't so helpful, but the Plumbilia definitely is. Plumbilia seeds give you Plumbilia leaves, which are a way of doing, I think it's lead. Let's see. Plumbilia. There it is. Yeah, lead. Lead, I've been told, isn't very useful, but I want to have it anyway. Indigo for dyes. Again, there's the Argentia and things like that. So the farm is coming along nicely. My outdoor farms out here are coming along nicely and being covered so that I don't have to worry about monsters anymore. I intend to expand it here to cover up this area for the bees, which would be nice, just so that I can go out and do bees without worrying about it. But the big one are these guys right here, and look at that. I got 2 propagations for oilberries. So there's another oilberry seed. I got 1 out of the 2. That's not too bad. So my scanner, and let's see here. It's one of these 2 guys. I think it was that second one that I picked up after the fact. Yep, there it is. There's some more oil berries there. So slowly getting the oil berry seeds that I will eventually put over in this chunk here. And the idea is to do similar to what I did here with the peanuts, where I should have 3 or 4 layers of them going up so that I can get several of them, because these guys do take a while to grow. Let's take a quick look. They're 1800, if you see down here, 1800 each growth phase, and it goes all the way back down to the first growth phase when it gets harvested. So it makes it rather long to be able to get those oil berries. But the oil berries are nice. Each of these guys can be extracted for 100 milliliters of oil, which will go again over to making my diesel. So I want to have a pretty sizable farm of those guys up and running. So that's basically been most of my what is this, New Year's weekend, is trying to get those oil berries bred and then building up the rest of the farm, in addition to dragging over all of the hydrogen and oxygen and then getting this guy set up. So I'll come back after a little while. Hopefully when I return I will have this stuff all automated, hopefully with a couple of super tanks. Namely, I want a super tank here, and I want a super tank over here for the nitrogen. So sulfuric acid and nitrogen super tanks would be nice. I'm not sure if I'll do a super tank of oil or not. It really depends on how I feel. And then now that I'm starting to collect things like zinc and galvania, I can start to make gallium, and I can get into more progress. So I look forward to seeing you guys back here again a little bit later when I have more done. Well, I'm back, and just wanted to show you guys I am in the middle of making the 3 stacks of integrated logic circuits so that I can put those into making the good logic circuits. Let's see here, these guys here, so that I can put them to use making a stack of these guys right here, the Advanced Circuits HV tier from Industrial Craft 2. Needing to make a bunch of these in order to progress, so yeah, just playing the waiting game while I craft up everything using my LV stuff, slowly using the fuel in my advanced combustion generator. So, see you in a bit. Alrighty, I have 3 new super tanks ready to go. I've also gone ahead and made all of the null logic routing chips that I'll need to complete out my automation over here. About the only other thing I am missing is I am going to need an MV generator with my low voltage transformer for this line. I'm going to need 1 low voltage generator, another low voltage generator. I'm going to need 1 more low voltage generator here. I might be able to combine that one with this one, and then I'll need 1 more low voltage generator right back here in order to run all of this. But in the meantime, I now have the super tank that I want for, oops, let's get this just over here then. I have the super tank that I want for nitrogen. I have the super tank that I want for oil. And then last but not least, we have this guy right here, which I will need to get out my large fluid tells, and we'll just go ahead and grab all of 64 of those. I probably don't use all 64 of them, but the idea being that just as a storage, there we go, yeah, I only needed 5 of those. Grab the wrench, take care of you, and then there is a super tank for it. And there we go. So now I've got a super tank that will work for my sulfuric acid. I have a super tank for nitrogen, so I can start running this line and getting the nitrogen that I'll use over in the EVF. I happen to have had 20 cans of nitrogen sitting in a chest, and so I used that in order to get some of the aluminum I needed in order to make the 3 super tanks there. So that was very handy. But that takes care of our sulfuric acid. So I'm going to go away again, and this time what I'm looking at doing is I'm looking at taking these 24 null logic chips, and I'm going to have to create 8 stock keepers, 5 extractors, 1 more responder, and then 8 crafting chips out of these null logic routing chips, and that will make everything that I need to run all of this. And then it will also get me the extractors and stock keepers that I'll need in order to power all 3 of those generators that run my set of machines. And that will be nice because that'll mean that I can run these machines without having to run back over to my benzene setup and grab or craft out cells of benzene. Instead, I can just request it and it'll come over here. But it'll also mean that once I get my nitrogen line up, I will be changing these guys out to run off of benzene instead of running off of the diesel, and the diesel instead can go to my one more can go back to my EBF, and then the 4th one I'm going to put, or that last one I'm going to put for this line right back here. So I have that stuff. What I'll need then is, or for that line, sorry, my ethylene line. So what I'll need is 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 combustion generators, and the reason I'm doing those is I want it to run off of either diesel or cetane boosted diesel, just so that since these guys run continuously, I'd rather have the larger power source going to them rather than running off of the benzene, and that way the benzene I can use over here on this line. We'll see how things go. I may change it up, but at least for right now, that is the plan. 5 more LV combustion generators, and then 2 more MV gas generators, or gas turbines rather, and then all of the chips that I have. So I'll see you back here in a bit. Alright, I got most of my chips installed. I haven't put in power yet, but I just wanted to show off all the pretty blinking lights as it's sending cans around. It's getting oil from here, taking it to the ethylene spot. It brings it over to the diesel in order to build more diesel fuel. I've probably got a boatload, 35 hydrogen sulfide cells sitting there that I need to get that guy powered to start doing stuff with. I have an obnoxious slime hopping around somewhere nearby. Yeah, that is the majority of the automation for my setup. I am considering putting a chest with a responder chip somewhere like around here, or maybe over in this section here. Basically just having a way to store cans up here next to this setup, since it will be using a majority of my cans instead of having to go all the way over here and all the way back around anytime it's trying to do anything with cells. So that may be something on my list. I haven't quite decided yet, yeah, everything is looking good so far here. I'm going to keep working on my power setup, and once I have power, I will be back. And we're back one last time. I hope you guys can hear me over all of the noise, but as you can see, I have all of my stuff now set up. It is running pretty swimmingly. The one last thing I need is one of my advanced combustion generators from over in my crafting area to go right here to run the ethylene setup. But as for everything else, I am now centrifuging compressed air to get nitrogen and some oxygen. I have a whole mess of pipes running around with diesel fuel bouncing around in it that comes from my diesel fuel setup to power this whole mess. There you can see some of my molten polyethylene, and you can see that I need to have an extractor here because I've got an entire chunk of empty cells that are just holding up in there. So I'm going to take care of a few things. It looks like I'm going to need several extractors. I'm going to need one extractor here. I need 2 more extractors to deal with what will be the benzene that those 2 guys run off of. So there's a bit more setup to do, but everything else appears to be running nicely. So I'm going to call this build good. The last thing I need to worry about is just getting my oilberry farm set up so that it can extract and put the oilberries here to run through this process. I had 4 of them, so I know the extractor's working fine to put the 100 milliliters each berry into my super tank here. Otherwise, I'm just manually filling it by going back to my old base and getting the using the pump that's there and bringing back over. I bring over that diamond tank, plus usually a stack of 64. Oh, I don't have any. A stack of the 64 cells, and sometimes one of the Ender IO fluid tanks as well, just to bring over plenty of oil to let it run for a while. So the last couple things I need to do then are to work on replacing the combustion generators in the crafting area with gas turbines. Once I've done that, I can move the two combustion generators over here and over to the EBF so that they'll be good to go. And I believe I can call my current automation setup good to go. I know one of the next things that I want to automate is polytetrafluoride, PTFE. And that is so that I can start working on some more of the plastic type stuff. PVC itself, the polyvinyl chloride, may be in that list as well. I've also been looking at possibly bisphenol A, and then also converting my biodiesel into cetane boosted diesel. So that's more of what will expand. I don't know if it'll be in this room or if I'm going to need to expand to another room. Oh, one thing I did want to show, I've got these pipes running along back here. Inside it is steam, because just up above I have a solar-powered steam generator that's being fed water by one of my railcraft tanks from the old base. It comes down into this fluid canner, and then here on this guy I've got a thing to craft steam cells, and that goes. That was the last piece I needed to automate in order for the steam cracked naphtha to come in and be turned into the ethylene that then goes into the polyethylene here. So yeah, I'd say overall a really good setup. I'm just about done with it. It's nice and working really well, which I'm happy with. And I'm going to call it good for this video, and we'll see you next time. Till then.